We're recording.
Okay. Nice. So I've got her to start communicating with my body language. Start listening to my body language. You know, and I got her to where this at least isn't a scary weapon that she runs from every time I want to touch her. Which really, in my opinion, is a lot of great stuff. Like, that's the beginning of what could be a great friendship, right? And she's obviously accepting some things about me. So, I'm going to see if I can put a halter on her without having to rope her or do something. I've never put a halter on this horse. I don't know how broke she is, so I'm going to pretend like I don't know how broke she is. I'm not going to assume that she's not broke. I'm not going to assume that she is gentle or halterable. I just want to go about it in a way that's good for both of us. And me stopping and coming out in the middle of the round pen and talking for a second, I let her come to me. That tells me a little bit about how she feels about me, right? She's not running around with her head in the air. And so I can probably put a halter on her. She put her nose down, she put it right in the halter. You know, it's not like I'm trying to trick her or trap her or do something bad to her. She was pretty okay with the whole thing, and so was I. So, all my halters are in my horse trailer. So this is actually a natural hackamore is what it's called. It's a big halter with extra rope for reins, or I can let that lead rope out and make it quite a bit longer. So I want to see if she's, you know, broke enough to lead. What can I do with her? What can't I do with her? What does she do in a tight spot? Next. So I would say it's not like she's never been handled before. She just doesn't have any manners, really. And I don't know that she knows what any of this stuff is for. So same thing with this stuff. I want to try to make it so it's not a scary like it shouldn't hurt her for this rope to touch her. So what I do, okay, now I got her troubled, right? I got a spot. This is perfect for me to show you what's going on here. So I got this spot that she doesn't like this. What I want to do is I want to try and rub it around. I already did it, really. I mean, what I do is when she stops moving her feet, I stop bothering her, and then I go back to bothering her until she stops moving her feet, and then I stop bothering her. Well, it's kind of backwards to the way we think, I think, to the way human beings think. It's when you stop putting the pressure on the horse is when they go, oh, that's what I got to do to get you to stop doing what you're doing. Am I making sense? So at first this made her jump around sideways, right? And I stayed here and I kept doing this until she stopped moving her feet, and then I stopped. When I stopped, she went, oh, wait a minute. When I stopped moving my feet, you stopped doing that? So now the trick is, if you don't want me to do this, you don't move your feet, right? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, Shane.
Well, it makes sense to me, but I don't speak the same language as everybody else, right?
I didn't know if that was a rhetorical question or not.
It was.
Oh.
Specific question, because you're my niece right now, right? So what's going to happen if I get her to completely turn around? That's usually pretty hard for a horse. A turn like that's pretty hard for a horse because she's letting a predator get her in a tight spot. And if I'll do this just a couple times, pretty quick, she won't even have to move fast. She'll just be able to step through it. Nice. So you see how uneasy she is about that? So what I want to do is I want to get her to be able to be in a spot where she's uncomfortable, but not blow up and not try and kick me and run for her life, and work through it. Because a lot of things that we do with the saddle on a horse puts them in tight spots, especially if you want to rope or do something like that. So again, what I'm saying is the time that I spend doing this now is hopefully going to make a big difference for everything she does later. Now, the guy that owns this horse is going to want to take her and put a big saddle on with saddlebags and probably a gun hanging on a scabbard, and go in the mountains and go hunting and go camping and do things like that. So now, since I know that's what he wants to do, I want to try and get this horse ready to be able to do that. Now, we could probably tie her head to a stump and put a saddle on her and take off riding. I've seen it done before, and it's effective. You can get on the horse, but you can't give them to somebody who's kind of green and let them go in the mountains. Then they'll get their head kicked in when something happens that the horse isn't comfortable with. So she's starting to get the idea that moving her feet and turning is part of this game, right? Do you see her changing attitude a little bit? And again, if you watch this, there's always some communication going on. This ear is pointing at me, or the angle of her head, the arch of her back, the angle of her head, I mean how high she's holding her head, all these things. A lot of times if you'll just spend some time grooming your horse, you'll change your relationship with the horse. But a lot of times what happens is you groom them and you don't pay attention to their behavior, and you end up causing problems. And what I mean by that is if a horse goes to step on you and you step away from them, you're losing the game. You're now putting that horse higher on the totem pole than you. And I've seen a lot of people do this, usually sweet women that are, nice and kind and don't want to, step on anybody's toes or cause any problems. And that's a great personality, and I love that. But what I'm saying is, you got to realize you're playing a game. You're having a friendship or a partnership with an animal that is designed by nature to play a game to where they fit on the totem pole every day. That's all they do. When they're out there in the pasture together and hanging out, that's all they do, constantly. Nice. So So now I'm going to go the other direction. And I guess, you know, even if I'm not making a video, even if I'm out here by myself,